Chapter 4. More stories to tell. Beatrice didn't want Noel's younger brother to feel left out because Noel had received a letter from her. So the very next day, she sent Eric a letter about a frog named Mr. Jeremy Fisher. Annie told Beatrice that the boys were delighted by her funny stories and drawings in her letters. Over the years, Annie and Edwin had 8 children. Beatrice wrote more letters to them that told the tales of Squirrel Neckin, Little Pig Robinson, and the Tailor of Gloucester. Annie Moore realized how special Beatrice's illustrated letters were. She kept them in a safe place. During this time, Beatrice was also busy studying and painting mushrooms. She had become very interested in mushrooms during her family's vacation in Scotland. Charles McIntosh, the potter's former mailman at Dalglish House, sent samples of all kinds of mushrooms to Beatrice in London. Beatrice created over 300 paintings of mushrooms. Not only were the images very detailed and accurate, they were also very beautiful. Beatrice believed that mushrooms could be used as medicine and might provide a cure for cancer. She did research and wrote a report about what she had discovered. Beatrice was ready to present her report to the Linnean Society, a scientific organization in London. But just before she was to speak, Beatrice was told that women were not allowed to be members of the Linnean Society. A man would have to read Beatrice's letter report for her. Beatrice was very upset. She probably knew more about mushrooms than anyone in England. But because Beatrice was a woman and not a professional scientist, her work was not taken seriously. Beatrice gave up her work on mushrooms and went back to drawing and painting animals. She started to think that perhaps she could try to turn her letter to Noel into a book. If the more children liked her stories and pictures, perhaps other children would enjoy them as well. Beatrice asked Annie if she could borrow the letter about Peter Rabbit. She copied the story and the black and white ink drawings of Peter and his siblings into a small sketchbook. Beatrice included one painting in color at the front of the book. Beatrice then asked her friend Canon Ronsley to help her send the book to publishers. She and Canon sent the book out 6 times and Beatrice got back 6 rejection letters. A rejection letter meant the publisher didn't want it. But Beatrice did not let those letters stop her. She decided to use some of the money she had earned from the greeting card to publish the book herself. In December 1901, Beatrice paid to have 250 copies of The Tale of Peter Rabbit printed. Beatrice gave copies of the small book to her friends. She also asked the bookstore to take a few copies to sell. The bookstore sold the books very quickly and they asked Beatrice for more. She had 200 additional copies of the book printed. Beatrice had been right after all. People loved the mischievous Peter Rabbit as much as she did. And what a surprise! Even Rupert and Helen Potter seemed to be proud of their daughter's little book. Canon Ronsley still wanted a publishing house to print the tale of Peter Rabbit. So he rewrote the story in rhyme and kept Beatrice's drawings. Canon sent the version of the book to a publisher called Frederick Warne & Co. They wrote back saying they did not like the rhyming story, but they liked the drawings. They also suggested that drawings would be much better if they were in color. Beatrice was excited that someone wanted to publish her story of Peter Rabbit. She was happy to go back to her original words, but she did not want to change her black and white ink drawings to color illustrations. She was worried that it would cost too much to print the book in color. She wanted the book to be affordable, and there was also the rather uninteresting color of good many of the subjects, which are most of them rabbit brown and green. Norman Warne was the youngest 3 brothers who looked after the publishing company. It had been started by their father, Frederick Warne. Norman's older brothers, Harold and Fruing, told him to convince Beatrice to change her mind. It worked. After talking with Norman, Beatrice agreed to create all the drawings in the Tale of Peter Rabbit in color. Norman told Beatrice that he will make sure the book looked exactly the way she wanted it. Beatrice expected her book about her beloved rabbit to be perfect. She wanted the colors of the printed illustrations to look like her drawings. She wanted a certain texture and color for the paper. The style and size of the type had to be just right for readers. She even went to the printing press to watch the book printed. The Tale of Peter Rabbit was published in October 1902. Frederick Warren & Co. printed 8,000 copies. The book was very popular and sold out quickly. The Tale of Peter Rabbit had to be reprinted several times. By the end of the year, over 28,000 copies had been printed. By the end of 1903, more than 50,000 copies of The Tale of Peter Rabbit had been sold. Beatrice finally had created something of her own. She would be able to earn her own money as a respected author and illustrator. Her story and the story of her naughty rabbit was only beginning.